Hello, I'm Rick Bayshard, and thank you for visiting my channel. Today I wanted to discuss a phrase that is often heard in A Course in Miracles, which says that, for example, sickness is a defense against the truth. The world is a defense against the truth. And when I first heard that expression, I didn't really understand exactly, how does that work? What does that mean? What does that look like? But of course, it involves an understanding of the Course's metaphysics and how the ego, made this world in certain systematic seeming steps to have us go out of our mind, so to speak, so that we never really know that we are a mind and that we think the world made us and that the world is our home and this is who we are and so on. And so the way that the world in of itself is a defense against the truth is that the ego's madness, the ego's methodology, within the dream, because remember, at the mind level, when we buying into the ego's thought system of separation and guilt and fear, and we identified with that, that gave us a really difficult time. It was very traumatic. We felt sinful and terrible. And the ego's solution for us to deal with that was to, of course, deny and make up a world. But the other purpose of the ego in doing this was it knew at the mind level, within the dream, where we are that decision maker, where our mind is split, who we really are, not the bodies. The ego understood that the threat that was present was that at the mind level, as a decision maker, we could change our mind. We could simply look over to the Holy Spirit's message of atonement, which says nothing happened. And of course, to the ego, that is a threat. And so how does the ego defend against that? Well, the fundamental way of doing that is making up a world and going out of our mind and writing our scripts here, however that might look like for all of us. And what happens is, because we're so caught up with the world and with all the drama that we've made, that it invariably defends against us going back to the mind and choosing the truth. And so that is how, in a very basic sense, that the ego uses the world as a defense against the truth. Because in this world, to the extent that we are caught up with it, to the extent that we think this is who we are and that the world made us, it defends from us ever considering that we're a mind, let alone going back to the mind, which is what we are, the split mind, the decision-making mind, and choosing differently. And so within the world more specifically, when the Course speaks about the sickness as a defense against the truth, well, that's true. Because, that is something else we get caught up on. We made, whatever sickness we might be addressing, we made the world. We made all of this. And as horrible as that is, we would say, well, why would we do that? Well, it's purposeful from the ego's perspective because it keeps us stuck. And it's so important to remember that, because we begin to remove the fact that, as we begin to understand the Course's teachings, that we made this for the purpose of not looking. And we can be a little more gentle with ourselves and saying, well, this always happens to me, and being a victim. And of course, the Course's approach and the Holy Spirit's approach to this is to turn it around and use what the ego made to help us, bring us back. And of course, the process of doing that is through forgiveness. But we want to understand forgiveness from the Course's perspective, because it's not like, again, we're pardoning somebody and so on. Forgiveness ultimately is proper perception. And when the Course provides us its metaphysics, and to the extent that we can understand the metaphysical theory of why the ego is there and why it made the world and so on, we begin to now have, at least intellectually, the ability to understand, why things happen to us that are not always very nice. And this is a sidebar here. Winning the lottery is a defense against the truth as well, to the extent that we will get caught up with that and suddenly think, well, this is my happiness. And so we're never going back, because we all want happiness, right? But we try to manage this world in order to achieve that. And of course, we'll have some little moments of it being good, but it doesn't last. And that's a perpetual problem. So we want to begin to use forgiveness, which is looking at our lives here differently, and looking at what the ego made, looking at our bodies, looking at our situations, our experiences, our relationships, and using the metaphysics, using the Course's theory of neediness and special relationships and why we do what we do here, and reinterpreting what they mean. To the extent that I can be ego motivated, I can now begin to forgive myself, because I can look at myself and smile gently and say to myself, look at me thinking I need a new car in order for me to be happy, or I need you to be different for me to be happy. Those are all smoke and mirrors, and they're made by the ego as a defense to keep us stuck and not look. And so as we slowly chip away at the drama the ego has manifested, what will happen is we'll experience it in the world of time. And time's not real, but that's another video. We will experience it as a process. And so again, what will happen is that slowly, within the world of time, the process will be that, and again, remember, trials in life are simply lessons presented once again for us to choose differently, that will slowly begin to, look at the people who attack us differently. Now again, we're still going to feel pain. We may feel insulted. We may feel like a victim. We may feel disappointed. It's not about not having the feelings. It's about being with them and understanding them on two levels. One, why this is, why the ego made this. Not to dismiss the pain, but at least if we begin to intellectually realize what's going on, we can be with that pain with a little bit more peace. And that's the process. Because as we apply that over time, repeatedly, because the world will provide plenty of opportunities, the next time something happens, we'll begin to recognize what's going on. We still might feel insulted, but maybe we won't be insulted for 2 days, maybe 1 day. But these are important, dynamics to recognize so that we can understand the very premise of this video is to why the world is a defense against the truth. But the Course is turning it around. Instead of being a defense, applying forgiveness, reinterpreting what we see and how we feel, and using those experiences as tools, as lessons, as a classroom to bring us back, to help us recognize our ultimate reality, which is one with Christ. And again, it's a process, and we have to be gentle with ourselves. But I thought it was important for us in this video to recognize why the world would be a defense, because it frames it, and we say, oh, I get it, I see what's happening here. And so that was the goal of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate you visiting my channel. If you liked it, please hit a like, and feel free to subscribe if you have any questions. And I have had some questions from people on different things, and I so appreciate it. As much as I try to understand the courses, it's been 35 years almost of like, oh my gosh, this is like, but who cares? Because it doesn't matter really how long the yellow brick road is. We're all going to go home, and a home we never left. And I think we can do that yellow brick road with a sense of peace and happiness versus trying to manage every curve and every brick. And that is a philosophy that I think is helpful. So thank you again for visiting my channel, and I look forward to hearing from you and providing another video in the very near future.